direct drive, 20 Newton meters of torque, broken thumbs. Yes, I can only be talking about one thing, and that one thing is the OSW, otherwise known as the Open Sim Wheel. Of course, for my first time with the OSW, I've jumped into a nice, slow, progressive, approachable vehicle in the form of an old school Formula 1 car. And this is, for those of you that have very astute vision, iRacing, and the track is Laguna Seca. But you can see coming out the pits there, just a sheer, absurd amount of torque that comes through this direct drive servo wheel. And there's me making a complete mess of it. This is literally my, I think, second lap with the OSW and first real time with the wheel. But the torque, the 20 newton meters of torque, we'll start there with the torque because that's probably the most defining aspect of this wheel. It adds so much, and you can see that not only am I having to properly push the car around corners with the car giving a good degree of resistance, but you'll notice the little track bumps in the little video on the right. We see the steering wheel. You see the little track bumps oscillating the wheel and really communicating track texture. There we go. Little off-road excursion. They've got to check what the OSW is like off-road. But just the amount of detail you get with the OSW is really unparalleled to any other wheel that I've used. And compared to a consumer wheel, it's just on a completely different level. But then again, it is £900 to £1,500 depending on the setup you go for. But shifting up through the gears, we'll get to grips with this. I thought what would be quite interesting with this though is just watching someone drive for the first time with this wheel, because a lot of the videos you see of people driving with servo wheels and direct drive wheels are people that can actually drive or have had a little bit of practice and are using their own setup, so you don't really get to see what the wheel's like when someone approaches it badly and it goes berserk. So hopefully this gives you a deep insight into the OSW through my bad driving. But what I did notice though is that compared to consumer wheels, again, the OSW actually informs you what you're doing wrong, in that the more you overdrive the wheel and the harder you push it, the harder it is to drive. So in many ways, though the OSW requires stronger arm muscles and requires you to let go of the wheel if you're driving into a wall for fear of breaking your thumbs, in many ways it actually enforces better driving technique and teaches you how to approach the track and how to drive the car and what you need to do to get the car to go around the track faster. It teaches you that a lot better than the consumer wheels. And you'll notice anyone that's spent a lot of time with, say, Driving Force GT, G25, or any of the sort of lower strength consumer force feedback wheels, you tend to learn weird techniques to try and make up for the lack of force feedback in those wheels. And if you then go into real life karting or getting a real car, you might accidentally apply some of those sim racing techniques that don't really work with real vehicles, or at best are just pointless to do in real world vehicles. But with this OSW, it's so hooked up and connected with the game, it just forces you to actually drive properly and actually rely on the allow the car to drive itself to some extent, and then you sort of inform the vehicle over the top of that, going by what the car's telling you. And it's like a unison of car and man, and that's really what driving is about. Probably sounds like nonsense, but that's my feeling of what the spirit of driving is. You do kind of get a bit of that with wheels like the T300, but nothing compared to the joy that you get from driving with the OSW. So, talking more about just the strength again, just the way you have to muscle it around some of these corners makes the corners so much more exciting than if you're driving on a low torque wheel. Not getting lost in the strength completely, the actual depth of the force feedback as well is really nice, in that there's a really large, oh dear, look at that, letting go of the wheel, disaster. There's a really large gradient in the force feedback with this wheel, so you get a good linear feel for how much grip you've got, how much grip is left, and what you can do with the vehicle. Now, you still have to drive the car over the limit a bit, mess around with it, and sort of dial in your mind what the car can do. But once you've started to get that in place in your head, there's a lot more signal there to then inform you as a driver of what you can do and what you can play with. And again, that makes it a lot easier to drive, strangely, than if you were to use a lower torque consumer wheel. Well, I think we're slowly going to do one lap without ploughing off the track here. Now, interestingly, with this wheel, on the opposite end of its sheer power is how loose it is when it's not providing force against you. And this is crucial and absolutely fantastic, because when it comes to correcting the car or doing fast movements, the correct movements, there's nothing there to slow you down or get in the way of the accuracy of what you're trying to input into the vehicle. And of all wheels that I've had the pleasure of using, this is the loosest. If you turn the wheel off and just rotate it, the wheel will just rotate freely as if it's a wheel on some bearings. So it's absolutely phenomenal in, as I say, the range, the sheer strength, and then the looseness of it when it needs to be loose. And it all comes together to completely blow your mind. And really, my biggest recommendation would be, if you don't have a grand spare, don't try this wheel, because it's going to make every wheel you try just feel wrong. But there you have it. That's a first impressions of the OSW in iRacing with a very sensible and easy to drive old school Formula 1 vehicle. Now I'm going to be doing some more first impression videos of the OSW and look at the OSW compared to the AccuForce wheel. And CES is about to happen, so that's going to be exciting on the VR front of things. So keep your eyes glued, it's 2016, the future is here. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and goodbye, thanks for watching.